Hello, everyone, and welcome to Objection.js. By the end of this lesson, I hope that each and every one of you will be able to use Objection.js models in Node Express apps. So, a couple steps to this. Let's talk about them. All right, so from the Node side, we need to init an app. On the Express side, we need to set up an Express app. From the Connect side, we need to create a database config, and then a database connection. And then we need to migrate and seed. Then and only then can we take objection and make models. These are all the steps we got to follow. Let's talk real quick about what objection is. So objection is an ORM. What's that mean? What do the letters mean?
Does R stand for relationship?
Yes. We got one of them.
Object relational mapping.
Yes. Object relational map her if you're talking about a library, mapping if you're talking about like the act of ORMing. So let's talk about what this means. Two different ways we could store data. We could store it nested. So we could say something like dogs So this is object style. That's not how we store it, though. We store it relational style. We store a dog record with an owner ID. That's the relational way of representing data. Way more efficient Harder to work with in programs, though. So we tend to prefer the object style in our applications and the relational style when we're storing data. Now this creates a problem. We're storing our data one way and we're using our data another way. Gotta have some way to resolve this. This problem has a fancy name, by the way. It is the object relational impedance mismatch. Just means we store it one way, use it another way. Those are not compatible. So ORMs to the rescue. We can store our data flat, and then we can say things like, give me every dog with their owners. Magic happens, and we get our relational data represented as objects. That's what an ORM is. So you guys used active record. Active record is an ORM. Active record is an outstanding ORM. Objection is another one.
So objection is like active record?
Objection is a like one-to-one replacement for active record. It's honestly not as good, but nothing is.
It's stored relationally.
Yeah, so this is how stuff is stored in every database, every relational database. So Postgres, MySQL, SQLite, SQL Server, all of those are relational databases. There are databases that store stuff like this, Mongo, Couch, Cassandra, but problem there. All right, so Kyle shows up here for Bixby, but then Kyle also shows up for Mesa because I own both dogs. It's now the same thing is stored in the database twice. Uh-oh. Relational databases get around that. Questions?
So since it's the same as active record, it's like everything we learned to do on active record is the same.
The syntax is going to be different. The concept is the same. You're still making models. You're still saying what has many of what belongs to what. You have a similar like set of things you can do, like get all of something, get all, including some related records. All those things you did with active record, you also do with objection. Connects plays a part in this too. So with Connects is a query builder, slightly different. Query builder connects to the database, translates from a programming language like JS to SQL. And that's about it. So I could say something like, hey database, connect to the dogs table, and select name where name, this is the stupidest query. Name Bixby. So this is JavaScript. Query Builder takes that and turns it into select name from dogs where name equals Bixby. And what's cool about that is that sometimes the syntax is a little bit different between one database and another database, or there's a feature that's supported in one database but not another database. And the query builder abstracts over all of that. You just write what the logic should be, and Connects does the translation to whatever it has to be for your database. Pretty damn cool. Connects in particular also does migrations and seeds. So Objection doesn't have a way to do migrations and seeds. Connects does. So we do that with Connects. Objection is built on top of Connects. So the two of them together make up an ORM.
So active record is Connects plus Objection.
Exactly. There's other ORMs that are also built on Connects. I think Objection's the best one.
Cool.
Questions about the role Connects plays or the role that Objection plays? Cool. Let's get our hands dirty. So we're going to go through each of these steps, and I'd like you to follow along. So first thing we need to do is make a new Node app. So find a place for a folder, and we're going to call this Objection Practice November. Empty folder, nothing up this sleeve, nothing up this sleeve. And we're going to give it an npm init-y, just like that.
We don't touch our index.js folder first? Does it matter?
Nope, don't need to, not yet.
Okay.
We do that, that's just going to make that package JSON for us. That's what's going to allow us to install stuff. Once you've done that, let's npm install Express. Let's just do Express for right now. Npm install Express. So once you do that, you get a node modules folder, you get a package log. If you're still pretty new to Node and Express and stuff, package JSON is your gem file. Package lock JSON is your gemlock file. Ruby stores gems like in your home directory. Node stores them in the folder you're actually working on. So it just throws them in that node modules folder. So we have initialized a Node app. Now we want to set up an Express app. So to do that, now let's make that index.js file, like so. So we should have those 3 files in that one folder in here. Go into our index.js, we'll bring in Express, make an app out of it, and we'll tell that app to listen on, oh, how about port 4000? We can even make sure that it's working if we set up a route for owners, maybe. And have it respond with some JSON. How about like owners array something like that. Get this far. You'll know that it worked if you can node index.js. You won't see anything on the screen, that's fine. And go to localhost 4000. Yep. I angered it. Oh, it's because it's owners. That's right. And see something come back. I'll give you a sec to get caught up. All right, how we doing?
Do we have to run a server or anything like that for it to show
Yes.
up?
So you have to node index.js. You won't see anything, but that's running. And then you should see it on 4000/owners.
Okay.
Marcos, how you doing?
I got it there.
Cool. Katie, how you doing?
I'm caught up. It's working.
Oh, sorry, what was that, Katie?
Sorry, I'm good.
Okay, cool. Music, how you doing?
I'm refreshing the page. And it's not showing up.
All right, why don't you screen share and let's take a look at it.
Okay. Hmm. That's what I have.
All right, so looking good, looking good, looking good, looking good. Cool, now over to your browser. Back over to your text editor. App get / owners. Oh, kill your server and start it again.
Oh,
It doesn't automatically update with changes and stuff. Now try it.
Ah,
There you go. Very nice. Yeah, if you node index.js and then you change index.js, it doesn't automatically update.
That's what
oh,
you need node for.
man.
Yep. Node mon takes care of that. Very good. All right, back in business.
Here? Is that what you add?
Okay, so we have now set up an Express app. Bully. Now we want to create a Connects database configuration. Here's how that works. We're going to npm install Connects, just like that. Then we're going to npx, not m, npx connects init. Different. So npx is kind of new, like last 4 years, I want to say. It allows you to run programs that you install. So when you npm install Connects, you get the node library. That's the thing like we require in. You also get the Connects binary, which lets us do things like run this initialization thing. npx is how you run those. So if I npx connects init, it's going to go, I just made a Connects file for you.
What if I have an error?
What's happening, music?
I have an error. It says
Okay.
npm err code ES JSON parse.
Why don't you screen share that one?
Okay.
Get-oh, something got borked in your package JSON. Why don't you pull that up?
Oh, is that because there's a comma here?
Yep. No trailing commas allowed in JSON.
Oh, that looks much better.
Yeah, it does.
Mhm.
Awesome. Now to your npx connects init.
That?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank
Pew,
you.
pew, pew. Very nice. So,
Oh, hey, Jack.
hey, Jack. Good to see you, boo. All right. So now I want you to open up that Connects file that it made for us. And we're going to, like, there's nothing fancy about this. It's literally just an object. What we're going to do is delete everything except the development one. Like that. Then it's saying we're using SQLite 3. All right, we need to tell it how to connect to SQLite 3 databases. The way that we do that, npm install SQLite 3, like that. It's called a database driver. This isn't installing SQLite 3. This is installing the thing that allows Node to talk to SQLite 3. Cool. I'm actually going to flip the order on these. Move that one up to here. But we've created a database config. So now we're going to migrate and seed. To do this, npx connects migrate :make, kind of like we did with Rails. And then we'll say create owners table, like that. So if you see something like this with the created migration thing, it worked. If you don't see that, it means something with your connects file is not right. All right, we good so far? Hanging in there?
So when we did this with Ahmed, he wanted to use Postgres. So what's the difference between SQLite, Postgres?
SQLite's a file. Postgres is an actual database. They do, like, for purposes of this, they do the exact same thing. But the chances that you have a fucked up Postgres install are about 50-50. I didn't want to spend any time on it. The objection part's exactly the same. All right. So, made the migrations. Let's open up that migrations file that it made for us. So the syntax on this is a little weird. There's okay documentation on the Connect site for this. Honestly, I just memorized it. Don't think too hard about it. The easiest thing to fuck up in a migration is not returning something. If you do Connect, schema, like all of the things that you do to set up a migration, but you don't return it, it's going to get mad at you and not work the way you think it will. But it's connects.schema.createTable, like that. The create table takes 2 arguments. First one's a string. That's the name of the table. We'll say owners. And the second argument to it is a function. So it takes in a table as an argument. And then this part, a lot like it was an active record. We'll say table dot integer ID. And now it's got an ID column. We can say table dot string name. And now it's got a name column. Now, active record has that change method that does up and down. It's the only migration tool I've ever seen that has that. Everything else, you got to write those separately. Up is when we're rolling forward. That's the one that runs. Down is when we're rolling back. So we got to tell it how to undo the thing that we just did. And so we can do connects.schema drop table if exists owners. So your migration should look like this. And if you did it right, you should be able to npx connects migrate : latest. It should say something green and happy like that. All right, checking in. How are we doing?
You got it working.
Cool. Music, how you doing?
Think I forgot a parenthesis somewhere.
All right. Katie, checking in. How you doing?
Good.
Excellent.
I fixed it.
Cool. Kicking ass and taking names. That's how we work. So we've migrated. Now let's throw some seeds in there so we got a little bit of data to work with. So to do that, we're going to npx connects seed make. And I like to number these. They run alphabetically, which makes no goddamn sense to me. The migrations, the reason they have all those numbers before it, that's a timestamp. Like you can see the date. It's 2020, 11, 02. And then this is like how many milliseconds have passed in the day so far. That makes the migrations run in order. The seeds don't have anything like that. So I like to control the seed order with numbers. So we can say like create owners. And we should see something kind of happy if we do that. All right. Let's take a look at that seeds file. This is one of the worst formatted boilerplate things I've seen in programming. So tell you what, let's make a deal. I'm just gonna fix it, and then you can copy and paste that. It's so fucking hard to read. So I'm gonna get rid of this. Here, I'll keep the other one so you can see the difference between them. We want owners. This is also like a pretty decent use case for async await. So I can make that an async function. Let's make it an arrow function too. Oops. Cool. That's how that should look. It's like, it's super not crazy. We delete everything out of owners and then we insert some. So I'll paste this in chat if you want to just use that. Make sure you delete the other one. So if this works correctly, you should be able to npx connects seed run. And it should show you something green and happy. Checking in. How are we doing?
What did you say? NPX seed run?
Correct. Marcos, you doing okay?
Forgot the connects. Let me try that command again. Okay, got it.
Excellent. Music, you got it?
Yeah.
Excellent. Katie, doing okay?
Yeah.
Excellent. So we now have a database with migrations and seeds. It's not connected to our Express app yet, but we could do things like SQLite 3. We could go into that database select all from owners. Cool. So we have a working database now. Next step. We need to create a database connection. So this is what's going to link the thing that we just did with our Express app. And it works like this. In your index.js file, I want you to require in connects like so. And then I want you to bring in that connects file. We'll call it config. We'll call this require ./connects file. Just like Ruby, if it's some file that we wrote, it needs to start with a dot or a dot. If it's an NPM package that we installed, no dot, no dot. And then since the thing that we're bringing in from the connects file is an object, we just want this key of it. And so we're going to do dot development so that we're getting this part because that's the part that we care about. Do dot development. And then we're going to make our database connection, which is connects config. So with just this, we can query the database and we can make an app with just this. I do it all the time. So if we were, you don't need to follow along with this part, but if we were to use this, it would be something like database owners dot select, then take the owners, and then response dot JSON owners. That's the same thing that we just did. In fact, if I run that, hey, there's the stuff from my database. So that's just connects, not the ORM, but I can write queries in JavaScript and do stuff with it. This is what you need to have. That is our database config, and that means that Objection is all primed and ready to go. Questions so far?
So we can now erase what's inside response.
That's fine.
Okay.
It was just a placeholder for us.
So is this going to be working with model views and controllers like in Rails?
Not really. We'll have the models. We don't really have the views. And we use kind of a different pattern than controllers. They're not totally dissimilar. Okay, so here's my quick soapbox against MVC. It's an awesome pattern. It predates the web. It's, I think, from the mid 80s or so is when the model view control pattern became popular. You see it on desktop software. You see it all over the place. Where it started to how we use it now is so fucking different. And MVC gets used to describe wildly different patterns. And so sometimes you'll see this called MVC, and you'll see Rails called MVC, and you'll see React apps called MVC, and none of those have anything to do with each other. So I feel like if we were coming up with the metaphor today, MVC is not what we would come up with. So I think it's probably not useful to think of that with Express apps. closer thing for Express apps would be the middleware pattern. That's the thing you see over and over and over and over again in Express.
What exactly is Express again?
Express is the thing that's letting us run this web server. So all of that is like Express stuff. We can also just write regular ass JavaScript in Node. So if I wrote, and you don't need to follow along with this. If I just make some Node file, I just write arbitrary JavaScript in this file and then run that file and get the output. So I can do that to process data. I can do that to automate things on my computer. I can use that to solve computer science problems. Like Node is just a platform for running JavaScript outside the browser. Express is specifically running a RESTful web server. So it's directly comparable to Rails, even though Ruby to Node is not necessarily a direct one-to-one correlation. You could say that Rails and Express are solving the exact same problem in opposite ways. Rails is extremely full-featured, robust, gives you all this stuff. Express is designed to be the exact opposite of that. Little tiny Legos that you can put together to build something from zero. Because I mean, right now, our working like web server is all of 11 fucking lines. Try doing anything in Rails with like with 11 lines. Other questions before we do the objection part? All right. So we're going to npm install objection. And then I always forget this next part, so I look it up. You can too. It's okay. Look up the docs. Go to the get started. So we want to, in our index.js, we're going to pull out model, capital M model from objection. It's the first thing. So this is just destructuring. Import export, we do something kind of similar to this. You'll see more of it later in this mod. You'll see even more of it in mod 4. But this is just objection returns back an object. The only thing we want out of it is the model key, and we're saving it into something called model. So that's the exact same thing as this. This and this are the exact same thing. Cool.
So when you do destruction, are you declaring a variable?
Yep, exactly. Just like I did here. But if I'm pulling something out of an object and saving it in a variable with the exact same name, that's a shorthand for that. Next thing, we got to tell objection how to connect to our database. In our case, this is going to be our like a database object. So we'll say model.connects database. That's our database connection. That's how Objection is going to use it. Cool. Now, time to make a model. So I'm not sure if you've done much with JavaScript's class syntax. We'll talk about a little bit this mod. Actually, we'll probably talk about a lot this week. But it's similar enough to to Ruby's syntax to be confusing. IMO, it's the single worst feature in JavaScript. But whatever, here we are. So this is us making a model. We'll say class owner extends model. So in Ruby, that would have been class owner shovel, or the little inherits thing model. So that's Ruby, that's JavaScript. Same thing though. All right, couple things this has to have. Table name's the big one. In fact, that's the only thing we have to have. And it needs to be a static method. Do we know what the equivalent of a static method was in Ruby? Static is like the official academic term. It's got like a more familiar word in Ruby.
It's not like is it?
Go for it, Katie.
Class method.
Class method. Class methods are static methods. Static method is what every other language calls it, but they're the same thing. So we'll make a static thing for table name, and let's see, I'm going to static get. Do I have to do the get? I don't think I do actually. I think I can just set it equal to something. Yep, thought so. So we need to say what the name of our table is in our database. Oh, owners. Ta-da, done. So now what we can do is owner.query. And that's going to be the same thing as owner.all was in Rails. It's a promise, just like a fetch request or something. So we need to chain off of it. And then whenever those come back, we can respond with them. Let's see if it works. Pew, pew, pew. Now, just like in Rails, we can put this stuff in different files. We can put this stuff in folders. We can do whatever we want. And in fact, we're much less limited than we were in Rails, which like the folder structure is like this. This has to be called this. Express is trying to be the opposite of that. It's like, call your files whatever you want. Organize them however you want. So if I want to put this in a models folder in an owner.js file and then just import it in, I can do that.
So if you imported this owners, you'd have an owners.js file, and then here you would require, and then like /owner.js.
Yeah, so like if I wanted to do that, I could do something like mcdir models touch models dot owner.js. All right, so now I've got this empty owner file in the models folder. So I could do something like open that file up. I can pull all this stuff into,
Oh, you would take all of it?
I can take this. I'm actually not going to take the database connection with it though. We'll keep that, but now we can get rid of that and say that const owner equals require models owner, and then module.exports owner. Right, let me, equals. It's probably going back and forth and all this shit. There we go. And now it's in a different file. Now I can put as many of these as I want in that models folder, keep it out of the main logic of this. But the rest of the logic works the same way. That's all you need to get started with objection. The next step is relationships, which are a lot trickier than they were in active record. We can't just has many dogs. They end up looking like this. It's still not crazy complicated. We've got a lot of videos on how to do this stuff. The many-to-manys are the gnarliest, and they look like this. But ends up working kind of the same way.
So if you don't have relationships, you don't need objection, you just need the connects.
You can do all of this stuff with just connects. It gets out of control very quickly. If we have 12 models, 13 models, 15 models, you end up writing a lot of connects boilerplate by hand. But yes, the reason that people use ORMs is the relationships. Because if I wanted to get my owners with their dogs, so like this would be the equivalent of include in Rails. Say like with graph fetched and now my owners are going to have all the dogs that they own also.
Oh.
Questions?
Mm-mm.
It's a pretty small ass web server, man. Cool. Hopefully this was useful to you. I'm going to teach lean right now. So if you want to learn about how lean manufacturing processes apply to software development, I'll see you over there. Elsewise, I'll see you at stand down. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.